Hi everybody, it's Peter Zellum's Griniflix Adventure 8 and welcome to another video. Today's video is my Leica SL2. It's in here with the new lens that I got for it, the Sigma 35mm f2 Contemporary series. The great thing about the lens, as you saw in the unboxing video, which was up there, is that it's small, it's compact, it's manual and it's automatic. So I've taken it for a bit of a test run out at Central Coast, MacMasters Beach, and we'll be able to show you some photos and some video as well. It all fits into the Billington bag, so it's nice and small, and there is another lens in there. We'll see what that lens is in due course. That'll be in another video. But for now, let's get on with this video and giving this lens a bit of a run for its money and my first impressions from the first shoot. The conditions I had in the shoot was windy, beach conditions, salt air, bit of water spray here and there. So the lens is sealed. It does have a rubber gasket on the edge of the lens here, right there. So that does provide some water sealing and some dust sealing, so that's good. So the whole lens is enclosed, which makes it pretty much weatherproof. And that's great. So it's small, compact, automatic, and it has a lens hood, I think you would have seen, that would normally fit on like so, with a 90-degree turn. So it's pretty straightforward. When you are packing this away, it does reverse, so you can actually make it a bit more compact and still have the lens hood. Lens cap goes there, so that's pretty straightforward. So from a handling perspective, that was all pretty easy. With the photography I do, I always like to shoot wide open wherever possible with the lens, so I tend to choose lenses that either provide a lot of character at wide open, vintage lenses for example, or more modern lenses that still have lots of detail and gives you that shallow depth of field so you can separate the subject from the background. And or night shots, night photography, where you want to shoot wide open to get as much light onto the sensor as possible, to reduce the shutter speeds that you have so you don't have the stars streaking and shoot the Milky Way. So that's the other type of photography I like to do, particularly out in the desert. Now, talking about the desert, I am planning another trip only in a few weeks' time. Now, that will be going out into the Simpson Desert and possibly the Canning Stock route in Western Australia as well. I am teaming up with another four-wheel driver with their own vehicle, and there is a possibility, if there is someone really super keen that wants to basically have a personalized workshop out in Central Australia, landscape photography, or just the experience of being out in Central Australia, I am prepared to take someone along on the trip. There will be costs involved, of course. If you are really keen, you want to join me, then do contact me and we can discuss the details and the possibilities. You don't have to join me for the whole trip, but there'll be there'll be some restrictions with regards to the luxuries. I don't want to promote this trip too much. You have a swag, personal swag that you can roll out, and that's your accommodation out in the bush. Of course, if there's hotels and things like that, then that's that type of accommodation as well. But it's going to be pretty rough, but it's going to be pretty exciting. So if you're looking at for a once-in-a-lifetime adventure out into Central Australia, well, then this might be your opportunity. So if that is something of interest to you, then do contact me, but be quick. The journey starts, I think, on the 13th of March 2023. And the Simpson Desert part will be probably about 2 or 3 weeks. And the Canning Stock route will also be about 2 or 3 weeks. So depending on the timing and the budget that you have, you may be able to join one or the other. I am limited to one passenger or possibly 2 if you and a friend or a couple are interested in joining the tour. But be quick and contact me if that is of interest to you. Alright, so back to this. I was experimenting both with the lens as well as with the camera. Since the camera is new to me, I want to do stills, but I also want to do video. So I've got video and stills to share with you. Most of the shots were taken at f2, wide open. And most of the time I was on automatic because you can flick to manual focus. When you are doing manual focus, you've got no indication on this ring as far as where you are on manual focus because it's all electronic. And you actually have to look through the viewfinder or the back screen to work out whether you're in focus or not. On automatic focus it's a bit easier, it's just a matter of choosing the automatic focus function that you want, whether it's multi-field, spot, or eye detect, or face detect, whatever. Alright, so let's have a look at the video and let's have a look at the stills. We'll do a bit of a movie there, I suppose, and then we'll come back maybe into Lightroom and have a closer look at some of the photographs where I did change the f-stop, the aperture, just to see what sort of detail I have in the photograph. Okay, well, jumping into Lightroom, and here are the photographs. I took a whole bunch of photographs that have been edited down, and you would have seen some of these in the slideshow. So just looking at these thumbnails, you've seen those shots. I took a series here, and you can see that was at f2 up there, and going to 2.8, 4, 5.6, 11, and 22. We'll have a closer look at those as well. Most of these were taken at f2, that you would have seen. What other notice? Okay, these were also taken at f2, and what you do notice particularly with these, I haven't really edited any of these photographs. These are the raw photos that have just been converted into JPEGs without any further editing. So you can see some vignetting that's around the photo at f2. And when I have gone up to a higher f-stop, f8, you can see a lot of that vignetting disappears. You can reduce that vignetting in post-processing if need be. You do notice it here. I think this is also at f8. There you go. And this would be at f2. So it gives you an idea of how the lens handles the vignetting. But you can get really close to your subject, which means you can blur out the background quite well, which I really like about the lens. So that's what f8 again, and that's at f2. And what other things can we look at? There's quite a bit of detail in the photograph. If we go full screen here and go in, you can see there's a lot of detail. It handles the highlights here as well as the darker areas quite well. That was at f2, I presume. 2.5 looks like it moved a little bit. What else can I show you here? That's at f2. Have a closer look, and I think it handles really well. So between the light and the dark areas, you don't have there's very little chromatic aberration, the greens and the purples that you normally see on the edge between the whites and the darks. So it's a modern lens. It does a fantastic job. Have a look at this one here. Again, quite a bit of detail. Yeah, so it's a great lens. No complaints whatsoever. I think it's excellent value for money. I was using close focus here for subject in the distance. That's why you have all these bokeh balls everywhere, but that's all very nice. It's very clear image. A very clean image, I should say, rather than clear. And if we look at the next shot, that's how that's pretty boring shot. So that's in focus, and that's completely out of focus. So it gives you a bit of a perspective of how you can use the bokeh to create an interesting image. How does it handle really bright lights, extreme contrast? Well, let's have a look at this shot here. So there's a bit of flaring around a really bright subject here, but it's not too bad considering. And that's shooting wide open. That's at f2. I'm pretty sure that's at f2. And I've taken that same shot at, in this case here, at f10. What are we at there? We're at 1/60th of a second, 2500 ISO. Gone down to 200 ISO at f10, handling the difference between the light and the dark areas really well. So good results. And the night skies. So what do I do here? I took an 8-second exposure, f2, wide open, 3200 ISO. And we can have a closer look here. I think I did do some editing here as well. Let's just have a quick look. There's the raw image with DNG, and you can see the type of editing that I've done here. I've increased the exposure slightly, pushed up the highlights, pushed up the shadows, the whites, made the darks darker, increased the clarity, dehazed, etc. So you can see this, it does all sorts of wonderful things. You can change the post-processing, you can do quite a bit to highlight the night skies. But if we have a closer look, if we look, so this is f2 wide open. We look at this the corners here. I think this is called coma, where you have this streaking in bright spots like an arc. that's produced. That's very little, so if that's called coma, then there's basically none. If we look at the image here, yes, you'd see very tiny specks of that purple fringing around bright spots, the chromatic aberration, minimum, very little. So a great lens, I think. Yeah, so it stacks up really well. Okay, and the last little bit to review, to look at, were these shots here with the metal plate in the background and some of these pine needles, I suppose you call them. I'm not sure what you call them. Needles, yeah, I suppose, pine tree needles. Anyway. So that's at f2, and we can just have a closer look. So that's 2. Quite a bit of detail there. If we go to the sides there, it does drop off a little bit as far as detail is concerned, but really very little. It's actually very good, I think. If we go to 2.8, you can see that the sides here and the corners is almost as much detail as the center. Center's a bit more than the corners. And we're now at f4, and you can see it becomes even sharper everywhere throughout the picture. The vignetting disappears. It's easier probably to see it from this angle. So yeah, look, that's 2, 2.8, 4. Basically out of f4 the vignetting disappears. Even at 2.8 it's pretty good. More than acceptable in 2. You can definitely edit that out if need be. Yeah, all right, and yeah, f2, we've got really close focus here, so you can really blur out the background as much as you want to create an interesting shot. Well, what do you think of the photos, and what do you think of the video, other than me shaking? I think the anti-shake is pretty good on this camera, and if you had some sort of gimbal, it'd be much better again. I muted a lot of the sound, or there was some beach sounds there, but I didn't have any external microphone, which meant the only recording from sound perspective was just through the mics here, which is quite vulnerable to wind noise, as most on-camera mics or in-camera mics are. So, okay, so that's fine. The handling is good. It's light. It's easy. Okay, so what do you think? Do you like the photographs? Artistically, maybe, maybe not. And but I think the lens stacks up quite well. It's a lot of detail there. There's not much vignetting. The bokeh is pretty good with shallow depth of field. It's got a short minimum focus distance, which is great. You can get close to your subject and really blur out the background. You will have seen that in a couple of photographs. Having the aperture ring there so you can see what aperture you are rather than trying to go through the screens makes it much easier. Having an autofocus was also very easy. Manual focus, because you can't see where you are, and manual focus made it a bit difficult, particularly in the night shots. So it was a bit of an experiment there in the evening. But otherwise it's a pretty good lens, and everything being contained within the lens, no moving parts on the outside, doesn't move in and out or anything, which makes it a bit more weather sealing as well. So a good all-rounder, I think, and good for the bush. So yes, back to my Central Australia trip. If it is something of interest to you, then do contact me quick smart if you want to join me on Simpson Desert or the Canning Stock route. I love going out into the desert, big open spaces, night skies, horizons, landscape photography, wildlife as well, close up, reptiles, lizards, ants, flora and fauna, to say the least. Yeah, so all in all, I think this lens is stacked up really well, and I'm looking forward to doing more photography with it. I'm still deciding what camera gear to take out into Central Australia. If you are joining me on that trip, then you might be able to give me some of your thoughts as well. Or anyway, actually, if you want to comment on the video and you obviously comment about the video, but if you want to comment with regards to what sort of gear I should be taking out to Central Australia, then do comment on that as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, then give it a thumbs up. That's how you support the channel. And if you haven't already subscribed and you want to see more content, then do subscribe. Press the bell and you'll be notified when the next video is out. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.